There's a specific sound a designer suitcase makes when it hits wet pavement. It's a heavy, hollow thud, the sound of a life being discarded. That was the soundtrack to my Tuesday afternoon. I stood on the sidewalk of our suburban Connecticut estate, staring at the 3 black bags that contained everything Sarah deemed worth keeping from our 15-year marriage. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Thomas," Sarah said, standing framed in the massive oak doorway we had picked out together. Beside her stood Marcus, her personal trainer, wearing one of my premium cashmere hoodies. The irony wasn't lost on me. She was trading the man who built the house for the man who just moved the furniture. But the real knife wasn't Sarah's betrayal. It was my daughters, Lily and Maya. They stood on the grand staircase behind her, looking at their phones, barely glancing at the father who had spent every waking hour for a decade ensuring they never knew the meaning of the word want. "Is Dad finally leaving?" Maya asked, her voice dripping with the kind of casual cruelty only a spoiled teenager can master. "Good. Maybe now the house won't feel so depressing." "He's not leaving, honey," Sarah corrected, her voice loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "He's being released. We need winners in this house, not anchors." I didn't argue. I didn't beg. In my world, the world of high-frequency data and structural architecture, silence is often the most powerful signal. They saw a man who had been unemployed for 18 months. They saw a man who spent all day in a dimly lit basement office, wearing old t-shirts, while Marcus flexed in the sun. What they didn't see was the glowing green text on my triple monitor setup. They didn't see the acquisition offers from Silicon Valley or the fact that I had just finalized a patent that would effectively govern how 40% of the world's cloud data is processed. As I loaded my bags into a rideshare, not my luxury SUV, which Sarah had already claimed for Marcus, I looked back at the house one last time. Sarah thought she was winning the lottery. She didn't realize that she had just evicted the only person holding the foundation together. She kept the walls. I kept the deed to the world they were about to lose. The hotel room I checked into wasn't a luxury suite. It was a functional, high-security space in downtown Boston, closer to the server farms than the suburbs. As I sat on the edge of the bed, the silence wasn't lonely. It was productive. For 2 years, Sarah had called me a ghost in our own home. She mocked my hobbies and told her friends I was suffering from a midlife crisis that involved staring at lines of code. What she didn't understand was that I wasn't just staring at code. I was building a digital fortress. In the tech world, there's a concept called stealth mode. It's when a company operates in total secrecy to avoid tipping off competitors until the product is too big to be stopped. I had applied that to my entire life. While Marcus was busy teaching Sarah how to find her core, I was finalizing the Thorn protocol. It was a software architecture that optimized data flow for global banking systems. I opened my encrypted laptop. A notification popped up. Acquisition finalized. The basement hobby Sarah despised had just been sold to a private equity firm for a sum that would make the Vance estate look like a dollhouse. But I didn't take the payout in a lump sum. I took it in equity and control. Specifically, control over the debt servicing arms of 3 major national banks. I remember a night 6 months ago. I was in the kitchen getting a glass of water and I heard Sarah on the phone in the living room. "He's just dead weight now," she whispered to someone, presumably Marcus. "He sits down there while I'm out here maintaining our social standing. I'm the one keeping this family relevant." She was right about one thing. She was maintaining a standing, but she was doing it on credit. She had spent the last year refinancing our home, taking out personal loans to fund Marcus's fitness influencer dreams and her own designer wardrobe, all while assuming my silence was a sign of ignorance. She thought the bills were being paid by magic. In reality, I was the one silently approving the extensions, watching her dig a hole so deep she'd never see the sun again. I wasn't being cruel. I was being an architect, You can't build something new until the old, rotten structure is cleared away. And Sarah Thorne was about to find out that when you evict the architect, you lose the blueprints to your own survival. 3 months had passed since my bags hit the pavement, and to the outside world, Sarah Thorne was winning. Through the lens of her social media, her life was a curated masterpiece of new beginnings. She posted photos of the estate with captions about cleansing the energy and shedding the dead weight. Marcus was now a permanent fixture in the frame, posing by the pool I had paid for, driving the SUV I had engineered the financing for, and smiling with that predatory brightness that only a man who has never worked a day in his life can maintain. I watched it all from a secure terminal in my new office. I wasn't stalking, I was auditing. In the world of high finance, information is only valuable if you know how to timestamp it. I knew exactly when the first cracks would appear because I was the one who had mapped the fault lines. Sarah's lifestyle was a golden illusion. She had convinced herself that because she held the keys to the house, she owned the ground beneath it. But Sarah never understood the difference between equity and debt. She saw a $4 million mansion. I saw a liability that required $15,000 a month in property taxes and maintenance alone. To fund Marcus's new high-performance wellness center, which was really just a glorified vanity project in a rented warehouse, she had tapped into the last of the home equity lines. She was burning the furniture to keep the house warm, and Marcus was the one handing her the matches. I remembered a specific afternoon a year ago, back when we were still fine. I had tried to talk to her about the market shift, about why I was pivoting my focus to the Thorne protocol. She had rolled her eyes, sipping a glass of expensive Sancerre. "Thomas, please," she had said, her voice dripping with boredom. "You've always been so obsessed with the infrastructure of things. Why can't you just enjoy the view? Look at this house. Look at our girls' private school rankings. We are the Thorne legacy. We don't worry about the plumbing of our finances. That's what people like you are for." It was a devastatingly clear moment. To Sarah, I wasn't her partner. I was the plumber. I was the invisible man in the basement who made the magic happen so she could play the role of the Greenwich socialite. She didn't love the man. She loved the stability the man provided. And now that she thought she had secured that stability for herself, she felt free to discard the provider. Meanwhile, Lily and Maya were being pulled into the vortex. Sarah was buying their loyalty with credit cards. She took them on a healing trip to St. Bart's, posting photos of them clinking glasses on a private yacht. In the comments, her friends cheered her on for finally living her best life. But when I looked at the photos of my daughters, I didn't see joy. I saw a hollow, learned arrogance. They were becoming versions of their mother, valuing people by their utility and their brand names. What Sarah didn't know, what she couldn't possibly grasp, was that the private equity firm that had just acquired the servicing rights to her secondary loans was a subsidiary of my new holding company. Every time she swiped that black card to buy Marcus a new watch or to pay for a VIP table, she was effectively borrowing from the man she had thrown out. I wasn't just watching her fall. I was the one who owned the gravity. The illusion was beautiful, shiny, and gold-plated. But gold is heavy, and when the floor gives way, it's the first thing that drags you to the bottom. The collapse of an empire rarely happens with a bang. It starts with a quiet, polite letter delivered by a man in a cheap suit. For Sarah, that letter arrived on a Tuesday, exactly 6 months to the day I had stood on that wet sidewalk. From my office, I had a front row seat to the data. I saw the moment her primary credit card was declined at a high-end restaurant in Aspen. I saw the frantic late-night transfers from her dwindling savings into her overdrawn checking account. But the final blow came when the Marcus High Performance Wellness Center failed its 3rd straight month of revenue targets. Marcus wasn't a businessman. He was a parasite who had mistaken Sarah's bank account for his own personal talent. When the warehouse lease went into default, the dominoes began to fall. Because Sarah had personally guaranteed Marcus's business loans using the estate as collateral, the bank didn't just ask for the money, they triggered a cross-default clause. It's a technical term that basically means if one part of your life catches fire, we're going to let the whole house burn. I remember watching the security feed I still had access to, the one Sarah forgot to change because she was too busy changing the decor. I saw her sitting at the mahogany dining table, surrounded by piles of notices printed on aggressive yellow paper. Marcus was there too, but he wasn't training anyone. He was pacing, his face red, shouting about how his brand couldn't handle this kind of negativity. "Just call the bank, Sarah," he yelled, his voice echoing in the hall. I used to walk in silence. "Tell them who you are. Tell them we're influencers. They can't just seize the equipment." Sarah looked smaller than I had ever seen her. The golden illusion was peeling away, revealing the terrified woman underneath. "I did call them, Marcus," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They don't care about the followers. They said the debt has been sold to a third-party management firm. They aren't offering extensions anymore. They want the full balance, or they want the keys." Then came the moment that truly broke my heart, though I didn't let it show. Lily and Maya walked into the room complaining that their private tutor hadn't shown up and that their data plans had been throttled. "Mom, why is my card not working at the mall?" Lily asked, throwing her designer bag on the floor, the same floor I used to wax myself to save money for their college funds. "This is so embarrassing. Everyone is talking about the for lease sign on Marcus's gym. Sarah couldn't even look at them. She had raised them to believe that money was like air, always there, always free. She had never taught them about the man in the basement who made the air breathable. Now, the oxygen was running out. That night, Sarah did something I knew she would eventually do. She called me. I let it ring for a long time before I answered. "Thomas?" Her voice was a wreck, a jagged mess of ego and desperation. I need you to come over. There's been a mistake with the bank, a huge mistake. You always knew how to handle the plumbing, remember? I need you to fix this for the girls." I sat in my leather chair, looking out at the Boston skyline, the Thorn Protocol humming behind me. I thought about the anchor she said I was. I thought about the dead weight. "I'm sorry, Sarah," I said, my voice as calm as a flat line. "But I don't work for that household anymore. And as for the plumbing, sometimes when a system is this clogged with waste, the only solution is to let it flush." I hung up. I didn't feel joy. I felt the grim satisfaction of an architect watching a controlled demolition. The house of cards was down. Now it was time for them to meet the new owner of the land. The eviction notice didn't come by mail this time. It came in a black town car that pulled into the driveway of the Thorn estate at 10 a.m. on a Friday. Inside the house, the atmosphere was one of pure, unadulterated panic. The electricity had been cut to everything but the essentials, and the grand foyer, once a stage for Sarah's social triumphs, now felt like a mausoleum. I watched through the tinted window as Marcus tried to load his protein powders and a few expensive speakers into the back of Sarah's SUV, the one the bank had already flagged for repossession. He was leaving. The personal trainer was doing what parasites do when the host runs dry. He was finding a new organism to feed on. "You can't just leave me with this," Sarah screamed from the porch, her voice cracking in the morning air. "We had a plan, Marcus. You said we were a power couple." "Plans change, Sarah," Marcus snapped, not even looking back. "I have a brand to protect. I can't be associated with a foreclosure. It's bad for the aesthetic." He sped off, leaving a cloud of dust and a woman who had sacrificed a 15-year marriage for a man who wouldn't even stay for the final act. That was when I opened the car door. I stepped onto the gravel, wearing a tailored suit that cost more than Marcus's entire gym setup. I didn't look like the dead weight from the basement. I looked like the man who owned the sky. When Sarah saw me for a brief, delusional second, her face lit up with hope. She thought I was there to save her. She thought the provider had returned to clean up the mess one last time. "Thomas!" She ran toward me, her heels clicking unevenly on the stones. "Oh, thank God. You heard about the bank, didn't you? You're here to stop them. I knew you couldn't stay away. Look, I'm sorry about Marcus. He was a mistake, a lapse in judgment. But we can fix this. We can go back to how things were." I let her get close enough to smell the desperation. Then I held up a single manila folder. "We aren't going back, Sarah," I said, my voice echoing against the walls of the house I built. "And I'm not here to stop the bank. I am the bank." The confusion on her face was almost poetic. "What are you talking about? The bank is a billion-dollar institution, Thomas. You were unemployed." "I was in stealth mode," I corrected. "While you were busy maintaining the legacy with Marcus, I was finalizing a merger with the firm that holds your primary mortgage. I didn't just buy the debt, Sarah. I bought the right to decide who stays in this house and who leaves." At that moment, Lily and Maya came out of the house, clutching their designer backpacks, looking confused and frightened. They saw me, and for the first time in years, they didn't look at their phones. They looked at me with a mix of awe and terror. "Dad," Lily whispered, Are we losing the house? I looked at my daughters. I saw the arrogance I had allowed to grow in them, the way they had mirrored their mother's cruelty. "No, Lily," I said firmly. "The house isn't being lost. It's being liquidated, because a home is built on loyalty and respect. And since those things were evicted 6 months ago, these are just 4 walls and a roof." I handed Sarah the folder. Inside wasn't a rescue plan. It was a formal notice to vacate within 24 hours. "You called me an anchor, Sarah," I said, leaning in. "But an anchor is the only thing that keeps a ship from drifting into the rocks during a storm. You cut the chain. Now, you get to see how well you can swim." The final 24 hours were the quietest I've ever experienced. I didn't stay to watch them pack. I didn't need to. I spent the night at a hotel overlooking the harbor, watching the lights of the city and thinking about the plumbing of a human soul. When I returned the next morning, the moving truck was gone. The grand estate, once a theater of vanity, was empty. Sarah was sitting on the bottom step of the grand staircase, a single suitcase by her side, the same way I had started. Lily and Maya were standing by the front door, looking at the bare walls where expensive art used to hang. They looked small. They looked human. "Where are we supposed to go, Thomas?" Sarah asked, her voice a ghost of its former self. "The credit cards are gone. The SUV is gone. Marcus, he won't even pick up my calls. You've taken everything." "I haven't taken anything, Sarah," I replied, walking through the echoing foyer. "I simply stopped providing the things you didn't earn. There's a difference between a robbery and an audit. You spent 15 years audited by my love, and you failed the inspection." I looked at my daughters. This was the hardest part of the architecture, the reconstruction. "Lily, Maya, I've set up a trust for each of you. It's not for designer bags or trips to St. Bart's. It's for tuition at a state university and a modest living allowance. But there's a condition. You have to maintain a job while you study. You need to learn what it feels like to earn the air you breathe." They looked at me, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of the girls I used to know before the wealth poisoned them. There was no thank you, not yet. But there was a realization. The dead weight was actually their foundation. "And as for you, Sarah," I said, handing her a final envelope, "this is a lease for a small 2-bedroom apartment in the city. I've paid the first 6 months. It's nowhere near Greenwich, and it doesn't have a view, but it has a kitchen. You might want to learn how to use it." "You're doing this to punish me," she spat, a last spark of the old Sarah flickering in her eyes. "No," I said, walking toward the door. "I'm doing this to free myself. I spent years building a palace for a queen who treated me like a servant. I realized that the Thorn Protocol wasn't just about data, it was about efficiency. And you, Sarah, were the most inefficient part of my life. As they walked out of the house for the last time, I didn't feel the need to gloat. I watched the black car take them toward their new, humbler reality. I turned around and looked at the empty mansion. It was just wood and stone. It was a project that was finished. I pulled my phone from my pocket and made one last call. Yes, this is Thomas Thorne. The liquidation of the Vance estate assets is complete. List the property on the market by Monday. Donate the proceeds to the Foundation for Underprivileged Tech Students. I walked out, locked the massive oak door, and for the first time in 16 years, I didn't look back. I wasn't an anchor anymore. I was a man who had finally learned that the most valuable thing you can own isn't an estate or an empire. It's the silence of a life built on your own terms.